So in part 4, we talked about how Ayatollah Khomeini overthrew the Shah of Iran. And now we're going to talk about what he did immediately after. On February 11th, 1979, the Shah of Iran's military claimed neutrality. Basically, they quit. And that was the end of that. On February 26th, 1979, Ayatollah Khomeini dismantled the Family Protection Act. It's one of the most significant things and the first thing they unraveled. This law gave women the right to vote and a whole host of other rights. On March 3rd, all female judges were fired. So on March 6th, 1979, Ayatollah Khomeini declared that all women who worked in government or public government buildings needed to wear hijab. It took this dipshit literally 23 days to dismantle and start to roll back women's rights in Iran. So 2 days after the mandate, on International Women's Day, March 8th, the women of Iran poured into the streets. We're talking tens of thousands of women to protest the feeling they had inside of a looming mandatory hijab. So suddenly the women of Iran knew that civil liberties and women's equality was on the chopping block, and the Islamic Republic was coming for their rights. As the women of Iran poured into the streets, they were met by extremist Khomeini fanboys, extremists who essentially met them with violence and threats, chanting, either wear the hijab or get smacked in the head. Ya Rusari, ya Tusari. What a piece of shit. So while the women of Iran were being overtaken by fascism, they were, as true Iranian women are, deciding to push forward and ask for even more rights within universities, within businesses, within pay equality. They were not willing to essentially take a backseat on women's rights. They were essentially attempting to get in the driver's seat. And we've seen this movie before where the Islamic Republic put their, what do you want to call them? Ghouls, the women ghouls, the like zombie ladies on the forefront of policing, mandating, watching, spying every woman within the Iranian society that was fighting for equality, and they put these bitches to the front to basically enforce their violent crimes and what was coming. They were creating a new political and social order that they were trying to construct and have constructed. So for the next few years, the Islamic Republic wiped out all leftists, all progressive competitors to their party, anyone that was going to dissent their theology. By 1983, they had successfully put in all the legal mechanisms they needed to roll back all women's rights and make it illegal for women to not be wearing hijab. So ever since this law, it has proven to be an effective tool to control women's bodies, but not just their bodies, their political dissent, their ideology, their academic expression, their journalistic expression, their legal expression. They have successfully created this law that not just governs the way they look, but it governs the way that they think or want to express how they think. And that is showing up all across academia, across journalism, across literature, across filmmaking, across the arts. What a convenient and cruel way to legally control and assault women. So the women of 79 and the Women Life Freedom Movement of 22 had one thing in common. They both understood that this hijab law was the thing. It was the pin that kept the subjugation of women across all parts of society. Let's talk about how. So let me break it down to you what women lost and what men gained in the suspension of this family protection law. Men gained exclusive right to divorce. Polygamy was legally sanctioned by the Islamic Republic of Iran. This religious, fanatical, fascist government needs to also be fucking polygamous. Islamic family legislation gave men the sole right to forbid their wives to get a job. So women basically had to get permission from their husbands or fathers or uncles to change where they want to live, what school they go to travel. So in the case of divorce, husbands were given custody of the children, girls if they were 7 and boys 2, because little boys don't need their mommies. Definitely no abortions or birth control happening in the Islamic Republic of Iran. And the blows kept on coming. March 3rd, 1979. Keep in mind, they've only been in there for a little bit. They forbade any female judges from judging. Okay, so the Qisas law in 1981, let's call it a bill of retribution. It's what it's called. Replaced established civil laws, allowed for civil punishments like lashing, stoning, normal things. So these punishments, like stoning and lashings, were specifically for things like adultery and want to wear compulsory hijab, state-imposed dress codes. We know who this affects. So Ayatollah Khomeini reduced the marriage age from 18 to then 13 to then 9. All of this laid the road for gender apartheid. So in less than 4 years, these rollbacks pushed the Iranian women not just a few decades, but over 100 years. So these guys were just getting started. And the next time, we're gonna get into the big beef between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the United States and the hostage crisis, the Iranian hostage crisis.